The hero of the Russian Federation is in Bangladesh, and it threatens to undo the whole world. Sounds dramatic, right? There's more as the world's leaders play their own games. On a Sunday of April 13th, a week after the Bangladesh army chief visited Moscow, 3 Russian Navy ships docked in Chittagong. Yes, the very same Bangladesh that has been cozying up to China, Pakistan, and everyone and anyone who cares to listen. Here is what is playing out in India's backyard. China wants to be the big dog in Asia, but now the big bad of the West is here. Putin's growing footprint in Bangladesh is just another signal of what Russia wants to do. Meanwhile, 3 days later, U.S. President Donald Trump's Secretary of State Marco Rubio met the Indonesian foreign minister in Washington.
Actually, Putin and Trump today are speaking for the second time in 2 weeks, but it is the second conversation between the presidents of Russia and the United States in 3 years. So we are at the very, very beginning. By far, there were only a few things that happened. One is that we reestablished the dialogue.
Why do we care? Well, Russia is marking the 75th year of its diplomatic ties with Indonesia. So the Kremlin has its own plans to give a grand flourish to the occasion. Russia reportedly wants to deploy warships, bombers, and other military equipment at an Indonesia air base just north of Australia. So what does that give Vladimir Putin? For starters, leverage in the Bay of Bengal and the Indian Ocean. And to top it off, an eye on the South China Sea. Even as Australia, Indonesia, and Russia seemingly dismiss the reports, alarm bells must have gone off in the United States of America. To quote WDL's famous song, Bob's Beat, that brings us back to the growing struggle between the two great powers that have shaped the post-war world. Russia and America.
This time, when President Trump suggested another Black Sea deal, Putin said, yeah, we are ready, but we need to draw lessons from the past.
Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin. Two complicated personalities that clearly don't like to be pushed around. They call the other a friend, but it is the US and Russia after all.
Doesn't work that way. I'm not aligned with Putin. I'm not aligned with anybody. I'm aligned with the United States of America and for the good of the world. I'm aligned with the world, and I want to get this thing over with. You see the hatred he's got for Putin. It's very tough for me to make a deal with that kind of hate. He's got tremendous hatred, and I understand that, but I can tell you the other side isn't exactly in love with, him either.
So once again, we are back to the big question. The Rezki, hero of the Russian Federation Aldard Sidanjapov and Pechenga, were greeted by the BNS Khalid bin Walid, considered the flagship of Bangladesh Navy. Bangladesh and India have their tensions, but Moscow remains New Delhi's close friend. But for China, this was a concerning development. The 3 Russian Navy ships come at a time Bangladesh has been looking to diversify military assets. Even as Muhammad Yunus looks to Xi Jinping for all sorts of help, the administration in Dhaka is clearly also worried about the dependence on Beijing. Interestingly, Muhammad Yunus had visited China in late March. Days later, Bangladesh Army Chief visited Russia. The rare 4-day visit saw General Wakar-ur-Zaman visiting weapons manufacturing plants and consulting with civilian and military leadership. Here's the facts as per a research paper titled National Image of China in Bangladesh, released in the presence of China's ambassador to Bangladesh, Yao Wen in Dhaka. So, in the 1970s, Bangladesh turned to China because the close India-Soviet Union ties made it uncomfortable. In 2025, Bangladesh is reportedly the second largest purchaser of Chinese defense equipment. There are reports that the Bangladesh military is excessively dependent on China. Now, Russia wants its piece of the pie, And to stop Putin from taking a sizable bite, Trump will likely have to move too.
On Ukraine, when Putin says that he really wants peace, do you believe him?
Yeah, I do. I believe he wants peace. I believe that President Putin, when I spoke to him yesterday, I mean, I know him very well. Yeah, I think he wants peace. I think he would tell me if he didn't. I'd like to see peace.
And so, we are back to Marco Rubio meeting the Indonesian foreign minister. After COVID, Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and now Israel's war in the Middle East, global politics has flipped. In November 2024, Russian warships made their way to Indonesia for the first time ever for a joint maritime exercise. Indonesia's Manuhwa Air Base and Australia's Port Darwin are just 856 miles apart. More importantly, both nations are part of USA's island chain strategy to contain the spread of the two great communist powers. In February of 2025, the Secretary of Russia's Security Council was in Jakarta to discuss deepening bilateral defense ties between Russia and Indonesia. In 2017, two Russian Tu-95 bombers reportedly patrolled the skies around Indonesia's Manuhwa Air Base. The report had sparked concerns for Australia as well as the US. All this comes even as China publicly acknowledged only its second overseas base in Cambodia. Bang in the thick of the South China Sea action, the Ream naval base worries the US. Washington warned that the Chinese base would threaten Cambodia's sovereignty. India is clearly crucial to both the United States of America and Russia. But in a face-off between Washington and Moscow, New Delhi will likely remain non-aligned, while ensuring its dominance in the Indian Ocean.